we keep coming back to feeling and emotion and the emotional connection between our place of work and the work that we do, and then how we're coming together as human beings to ultimately deliver products and services which are underpinned by technology for customers that are then going to use them. There's always a customer at the end of it. So from your perspective, where should those factors be considered, that the need for bringing humans together, the coaching element, when and where should that be considered?
Okay, so there's an alignment that needs to happen between an individual and what is important to them, what are their values, what's their why. Why would they be interested in doing a certain job, using certain strengths and skills? Do they understand who they really are and what will be meaningful for them as an individual in their work? So that requires every individual to know what makes them tick, what their purpose in life is, quite, deep, meaningful things. And this is where coaching is so important for individuals. But the complexity then is, how does each individual then connect with the team?
Yeah.
So they have a shared goal and a shared purpose and a vision of where they're going.
Yeah.
And then the department.
Yeah.
So what role does the individual, the team and the department play? And then how does that line into
the
organisation? And ultimately, as you were just saying, what is it that the customers really want and need? Because if all of that isn't aligned and articulated in some way, it's very difficult for each individual to feel a sense of connection to the work they're doing every day, to be able to be energized, to exercise their discretion every day and think, how do I prioritise my time and my energy in the right ways?
Well, it's that golden thread between it all.
Absolutely.
It's, and this is everything that we're trying to do, isn't it, at Biodiffusion? It's understanding what is the driver for an organisation, and that driver should be linked to, I guess, a customer outcome, a customer need, the market need, and then building a clear and understandable plan behind that's anchored between that strategy or around that strategy, and then broken down into a way that that strategy can be delivered, but people know from the very top to the, I guess, to the bottom of the hierarchy, however that exists, why they're doing something. And then that should link in, I guess, to the sense of purpose that an organisation holds. Why am I coming to work every day? Or why am I buying this product from this organisation? Having a clear sense of the why, again, going back to those points that you made earlier, having that clear sense of why unites everybody and everything that they're there for on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And it often is not aligned because individuals don't know what drives them enough. I mean, it's quite a complex thing, isn't it, to align all of that? And it's constantly shifting as well. And so individuals need to spend some time thinking about it, actively having conversations with their teammates, their organisation, choose the right organisation to work for, and consciously think about, how do I want to work with my teammates? How do I want to interact with people? How am I going to be with people that's going to give me a sense of meaning? Because unless you think about your own individual responsibilities and roles and wants in the work you do and in the work that you're producing, and it has to align with your overall life plans as well, which is the other thing that I think we might be coming to talk along about, is, this, how do we do the work that is of meaning for me at this time in my life? Because, we used to have a lifetime which was sort of structured in 3 chunks, which was, your education, your work, and then your retirement. And there was sort of an expected route that people would go down, and at certain transition points you might have different career choices or whatever. Things in the last few years have sort of been thrown up in the air a bit, and that long-term planning's gone...
It's different.
Yeah, it's very different.
Let's go back to that point around the bringing the sense of why together, and that's hard. Isn't it the role of a leadership team to distill that sense of why?
Yeah.
The role of a leader is to ensure that everyone across an organisation understands that, or at least provide the guidance, and then you build teams around that sense of why,
Yeah.
and unite them behind that vision. Are leaders within these organisations doing that? And are they doing it well enough?
Some are. Some are absolutely brilliant at it. I would say that is the exception rather than the rule. But they can do something about it. But I think this is where leadership has changed massively. What was suitable as a sort of a style of leadership, which was more tell and dictatorial, now the workplace requires a very different type of leader. So what we see now are leaders who can create that environment of, they create the narrative that brings everyone in, but they co-create it. They are having conversations which are a two-way conversation. They are allowing teams to be self-organizing and having agency around where they spend their time and effort.
Yeah.
So the leaders that we have in successful organizations today look very different. I'm not saying that there isn't a time when you have to be directive, because clearly there are times when you just have to say, we need to do this. However, this sort of more coaching approach and collaborative approach is something that we need to dial up far more with a shared narrative.
Okay, that's good. So I think that for me comes down to a culture that exists within an organisation. And that's what sets people up for success.
Yeah.
People will deliver that plan that we've talked about. And when there's the right culture in order to do that, they feel safe in which to do so. They'll deliver that plan well. And ultimately that becomes the culture that exists, like a culture for change.
Yes.
And people are united behind that vision, united behind the purpose, even with how they work, where they work, how they feel when they get to work. Being clear about what a company stands for, an organisation stands for. I guess that builds a sense of teamship and then resilience in a team.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, when we think about the skills that are increasingly important now for all people in organisations, resilience has to be absolutely at the core of that. And, we talk about resilience being, it's not just about bounce back ability, because I think that's sometimes what historically people talked about. It's more than that. It's when you come back, you're adapting, you're constantly changing, and you're reacting to the environment that you're in. And I think that's the distinction. So adaptability and collaboration are absolutely key.
So my view is that you can earn it by building resilient teams. You will only do so when you have the right culture in which people can thrive and come together and collaborate and thrive and do successful things. But being successful also acknowledges where failures have been encountered and recognizing that failure will happen.
Yeah.
And learning from those failures, and again celebrating the wins.
Yeah.
I guess the question I've got building on that, Catherine, is do we take enough time to stop and look back in order to plan the future? And are we going a bit too fast?
I think that there's a time, isn't there, for that deliberate, right, hang on, let's just stop. Let's have fixed points at which it would be appropriate to just stand back and put the emotion aside and try to use the data, the analytics, be objective about what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what's the narrative that we're seeing play out here. And actually, is there something that worked well? Is there something that hasn't worked so well? And therefore, where do we want to take things? Because it might be that you need to go different direction.
Yeah.
And that's the brave thing to do, isn't it? To constantly be deliberate about stepping back and saying, do you know what, we were wrong doing it that way, but we've learned, and we're not going to just be, really stubborn and carry on going, whatever. We're going to learn from that, and we're changing our direction or approach.
Yeah.
But we do that through deliberate social connections, listening, and really being attuned to what the experiences are in the teams.
Yeah.